In today's video, we are asking which one is the better Nike daily trainer. Is it the Vomero 16 or is it the Invincible 3? Let's compare and contrast and let's find out. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed watching this content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of shoe updates, life updates, race updates. You know how it goes. Lots of cool things going on. So without further ado, let's get into it. Specs for both shoes respectively right here. And we're going to go and begin with our veteran of the two, which is the Vomero 16. So as most of you probably know, the Vomero 16 in particular was a shoe that was more of a 2022 release and had a lot of cool features with the shoe. And overall, my experience with this shoe at 300 plus miles in, as you can tell, has been quite useful. A lot of potential as well in the shoe and just kind of beaten up in all sorts of places. But I would like to describe this shoe as like the barbecue chicken of the steakhouse for my running regiment, which is that, you know, you get your half rotisserie chicken, you get your barbecue sauce, you get your veggies, you have a good meal, you enjoy it, you say thank you very much, but because you're in a steakhouse, you're probably not going to order the chicken again. It's not because the chicken was bad, it's just you're in the steakhouse, okay? Maybe this analogy will make sense at some point as we get into the video, but we'll see. So, anyways, what I'm trying to get here with the Vomero 16 is that it's being marketed as your daily long run shoe, okay? And there's features to the shoe which make it as such, or at least attempt to. And I think the overall constructive and complaints and criticisms that come with the shoe would probably match that. So again, specs for the shoe, this does in my size weight about 10 ounces, which is like 300 grams. We have a 33 millimeter heel, 23 forefoot, which gives it this 10 millimeter offset in the stack height, which again gives it a little bit more of the mid to high stack height kind of range, but with the high offset you get a little bit more forgiveness in the rest of your body and more calf use overall. And that's kind of just the deal with the shoe there. Again, some of the main pieces of the shoe that we need to address for now is that in the foams, we have a combination of ZoomX foam and we have this EVA foam, which is a different color on the shoe, this gray piece here, and then the light gray is our ZoomX. And the purpose with that is to essentially give you comfort with the EVA foam, comfort for your foot, and then the ZoomX is to give you that spring, that, you know, rebound effect that's going to essentially push you in the shoe for long distances and such. Anything else for the foam right now? Probably not. We'll get to the technologies probably in a bit. Actually, no, let's talk about it. We do have an Air Zoom pod in this particular shoe, which gives it a little bit more of a spring as well. That works in tandem with the ZoomX, the EVA, and this rubber design for the shoe overall. So that's kind of our outsole technologies associated with the Vomero 16. So let's get into main specs and technologies with the Invincible Run 3, or we'll just call it the Invincible 3 for short. So again, this shoe for me weighs at about 10.8, 10.9 ounces, which is about like 310 grams average. We have a heel of about 40 millimeters and then a forefoot about 31, which gives it a 9 millimeter offset. All things considered, close enough to 10 millimeters where, again, the principle will still probably remain the same, where you want more calf usage, save the rest of your body for, you know, whatever else you're doing during the run, and yeah, just kind of keep that focus on the calves. Now, this one, I'm not too sure entirely what the Invincible was marketed for. If I had to suspect or take a gander at what it could be, it would be probably more of your daily speed trainer from Nike that doesn't involve a carbon plate. And that gives it kind of a less, I guess, a little less niche than something like the Zoomfly 5, which has the carbon plate, which has you more prepping and leaning towards running in like, you know, your Zoomfly, Vaporfly, Alphafly type of shoe in the long run. But here, it's taking a step back from using the carbon plate technology, and I guess as a result, that does keep the shoe a little bit more, I guess, forgiving for your feet overall, because then you're not having that impact from a stiff carbon plate on your ankles and the rest of your joints there. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. And then in terms of foam technologies, we do have ZoomX going all the way across on the shoe, with no Air Zoom pods that I'm aware of. So realistically, the only things you're relying on is the huge ZoomX stack of foam you've got and the rubber at the bottom of the shoe. Now let's go on uppers here. Basically with the Vomero 16, quite busy on what's going on up here. We don't have a gusseted tongue. We do have some cushioning on it, although, so that's pretty cool, I would say, overall. We do have some textile shoelacing on the shoe, which, again, keeps it kind of busy, but it's not like it doesn't have a good lockdown. It's just more visually looks like there's more moving parts to it overall. We do have, again, some textile kind of cushion in the forefoot to toe box area. It's not quite, you know, glazed with anything in this particular area, so it does have what we would like to assume is some breathability, but I would probably disagree with that overall, as I've taken this run on shoes during hot days where I've had sweat logs or water logging, I guess that's what you call it, and just water sits in the shoe pretty badly. So that's just something to consider during your long runs when you have it, that there isn't a whole lot of water flush in this particular pair of shoes, and you will hear the squeak of water in that particular sense. Other things to note in the shoe heel cup area here, we do have a lot of cushioning for the heel, which is excellent for your long run, so you're not like grinding the heel in any sort of way. You've got a great lockdown, no heel slip that I'm aware of, and you also do have this plastic heel cup here in the back for some additional arch support and heel support with your lockdown. Now, for the Zoom, I'm going to call it the Zoom X Invincible Run 3. In this shoe, a couple of things going on that were different from its predecessors and from the Vomero, of course. So one, it seems like we have less material on the upper overall, because I guess the shoe is designed to have a little bit more breathability than its counterparts. This was definitely an issue with the Invincible 1 that I recall, was that the water logging was really bad in the Invincible 1. Especially when I was running in Florida on like beaches, and that would just be humidity and sweat and all that. It was not good. Here, at this point in time, I'm assuming there isn't going to be too much water logging based on, you know, the duration of runs I've had. Like, it hasn't been much of an issue at this point in time. But there is a glazing on the textile, which makes me think that there's a reinforcement that's going on with this upper. Probably in testing, they've assumed that the shoe takes some kind of beating, and as a result, they've reinforced it in that kind of sense. Other things to note is that the upper has what looks like a flyweave pattern in the shoe that is, I guess, acting as a reinforcement to the mid area of the shoe. It doesn't seem that the flyweave is being used in any sort of way with the shoelaces. Not a big deal. Doesn't need to be. But other things to consider as well with this shoe is that there was discussion of heel slippage going on in this particular model of the Invincible. Now, something to think about with the heel slippage is that there's a couple of factors going on. One, it could be the sock that's involved with the shoe. It could be, an actual design flaw that's legitimately with the Invincible Run 3. That's something to address in the long run. Or 3, it just might be the way you're locking down in the shoe, which creates its own issues as you move forward, of course. Because there's only one real lockdown point in the shoe, and if you tie it too much, you might cut some circulation in the shoe, and as a result, you might get some like arch issues while you're running in this particular model. So yeah, that's kind of something to consider with the Invincible Run 3 as the specs are kind of overall. So now that we've kind of gone over all of the specs, we go into the main stuff in terms of buying shoes. Which direction do you go? I guess we'll start with the lowest hanging fruits. Let's talk prices. Vomero 16 is $160 when I bought it last year. It might be a lot less now. It could be still consistently $160. Not 100% sure. The Invincible Run 3, I believe, was $180 in US dollars. So $20 a little bit more for what I'm going to assume is a little bit of speed and some oomph in the shoe, but you, as a result, get a little bit of instability because you're running Zoom X foam all the way across on this thing. Whereas with this Vomero 16, you're going to have much more of a stable ride. You'll have that pop from, I guess, I would say the Air Zoom pod of the shoe with the combination of the EVA and the Zoom X foam that's associated with the shoe, but you're not going to have as much speed. Kind of just, that's the real points there. In terms of uppers, at this point in time, I'm going to assume both of them are probably going to have some water logging issues, which is going to be common with a lot of Nike shoes that have this, at least in this case, both of them having this like sort of busy upper, even though the Invincible Run 3 shouldn't have as busy of an upper. It kind of is, and there's still a lot going on with it. And yeah, they're kind of just built in the same way with, middle to high stack heights, at least in the Vomero 16, with a higher stack height in the Invincible, the heel cups, and this wide forefoot area of the shoe. So that's been Nike's, I guess, like baseline model when it comes to building these things out. Another thing I would probably say is that the ZoomX Invincible Run 3 is probably not your long run shoe. I'm assuming you can use it as a long run shoe, but my caveat there is like if you have to compare it between, you know, this being your daily long run shoe and the Vomero 16, you'd probably want to lean more for the Vomero 16. Now, on the other end of the scope there, your speed shoe or your daily speed runner might be more of the Invincible Run 3 because you're only relying on the ZoomX with the rubber and the road, less moving parts and just like more of you and the road kind of in this case. Whereas the Vomero 16, the EVA might slow you down just a little bit. It might be a little bit more of a sink into that foam. You're going to have, again, this Air Zoom pod to kind of counteract that, but then you also have the ZoomX with like less of a stack height kind of going on, but as well, considering that like the lock of the shoe might make it a little bit tricky to put in some like additional speed than something like the Invincible Run 3. And I guess the last piece that we should probably address, just kind of as like our little oddball that will just stick at the wall here, is the weight of the shoes, which again, 10.2, 10.3 ounces, and then almost 11 ounces on this particular shoe. The Invincible Run 3 being heavier than the Vomero 16 with less moving parts is kind of shocking, but at the same time almost understandable because, again, the shoe still does have a lot of moving parts with it. It is still like this brick, like shithouse of a shoe, but at the same time, the weight might be justified in counterbalance for the shoe in a way. How do I want to put this? Like the weight is justified in the case that there's enough going on with it in its design where if you want to have that speed run, the weight is in the right places where it's not going to be a detriment like the Vomero 16 would in this particular case, where it feels more like it's back end heavy and the EVA foam is the majority of the weight, which is to keep you more comfortable than something that's going to give you a little more speed. So hopefully that explanation was right. Again, this is what happens when I do these videos in one take. Is like trying to find the words on the fly is kind of tricky, but I digress. Point there is that the better shoe overall really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just training for like your 10K to half marathon to 5K distance, the Invincible Run 3 is a good shoe for your training regiment. I'm going to assume you can use it for your long runs. I just would think there's better options available to you. Whereas if you're looking for more of that marathon training, that half marathon, marathon, and you want something that's a little bit slower and you want that distance to be comfortable and fun, if you know distance running can be fun to that extent, then the Vomero 16 or an equivalent might be your move there. So that's where I look at these two shoes as their daily trainers, as they have each respectively their own purpose in your shoe lineup, and I don't hate or love either one. I just understand that they're a daily trainer with their purpose in this particular case. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you have done your own comparison of these two shoes and like one better than the other, comment down below, and we'll just kind of discuss it in the comment section, see if we agree, disagree on certain features of these things. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.